Shell has been pumping fuel in South Africa since 1902. Over a century, they built one of the country's most recognizable retail empires. This map shows 600 nodes, controlling nearly 10% of South Africa's retail fuel market. Shifting to the financial breakdown, this market projects an $8.5 billion valuation by 2026. Notice the massive 50% slice for diesel, driven by transportation and power demands. Yet, despite sitting on a massive, highly active infrastructure network, Shell is packing up. They are deliberately exiting the South African market, initiating a full divestiture of all 600 locations. Walking away from a billion-dollar corporate legacy like this creates a physical and economic void in Africa's largest economy. It takes a very specific kind of buyer to swallow a network of this size whole. To understand the exit, we have to look past South Africa. Shell has been executing a highly calculated retreat from several major international markets, including Australia and multiple countries across West Africa. The energy industry is split into two halves. You have downstream, which includes the physical retail gas stations you see on the street. Then you have upstream, which covers pulling crude oil and natural gas out of the earth. Shell has decided to systematically dismantle its downstream retail operations. Every dollar saved by selling off those physical gas stations is being redirected here. The strategy is to pour that capital into high-yield upstream operations, specifically prioritizing natural gas fields and deepwater exploration. The physical proof of this shift sits on the South African coast. Shell's Durban refinery, this massive industrial complex, has been inactive since March 2022. They're trading the steady incremental revenue of street-level retail for the high-margin, high-risk upside of drilling and exploration. And that decision leaves their 600-station network sitting on the table. Enter the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, or ADNOC. Backed by the UAE, they're executing a highly structured global expansion plan with a committed capital war chest of $150 billion. When Shell's initial negotiations with commodity trader Gunvor Group fell apart, ADNOC moved in quickly, but he secured the position of preferred bidder to acquire the entire South African network in a deal valued right around $1 billion. This chart breaks down the actual math behind the purchase. On the top timeline, you can see the brutal, multi-year process of securing land, permits, and building out 600 stations from scratch. Below it is the alternative, writing a single $1 billion check to buy instant operational scale and bypass those regulatory costs entirely. This South African acquisition snaps perfectly into ADNOC's aggressive push across the continent. It directly follows their recent $500 million joint investment with BP into Egypt's natural gas fields. Instead of fighting to capture market share site by site, ADNOC is using state-level capital to buy massive geographical dominance. With one signature, they establish a permanent gateway into the southern African region. A billion-dollar deal at the corporate level looks very different when you zoom in on the actual street-level economy. While Shell and ADNOC negotiate a strict bilateral transaction, their signatures force an immediate operational transition on thousands of secondary businesses plugged into that network. The most immediate pressure hits the franchise layer. The operators running these 600 independent stations will have their branding stripped down and replaced, forcing them to adapt to entirely new corporate mandates from Abu Dhabi. Then there is the logistical web behind the pumps. Commercial property owners, independent fuel transport fleets, and regional lubricant suppliers now have to sit down and renegotiate their supply contracts, leases, and service agreements under completely new ownership. That localized instability opens a distinct window. As the network undergoes restructuring, regional fuel distributors and legal advisory firms stand to capitalize on the wave of required regulatory filings and contract renewals. For over a century, Western oil majors dominated the African street corner. As they retreat to focus on deepwater extraction, Gulf state giants are rushing in to claim the territory, bringing both structural disruption and immediate financial opportunity to the local economies operating in their wake.